All right, we're live. All right, so let's start this. I know I called the event Founder Branding on LinkedIn, but I actually want to talk about founder-led marketing. I think it's a better term. We're going to talk about it, what it means and what the differences are maybe between founder-led marketing and founder branding, because I think there are some distinct differences. We're still experimenting with this format. We're doing this on Zoom and also streaming it live on LinkedIn. And today we're trying something a little bit more different, because usually it was just me kind of solo talking. And now I brought Toby with me, who is a creative director at Project 33. So we prepped some question that he's going to ask me. And then he also has some questions that I don't know what he's going to ask me. So it's a little bit more, hopefully organic. It's not me monologuing into the camera, but it's like a little bit more dynamic. And then after we talk a little bit about founder-led marketing, we can, you guys, Noor or Lena or someone else here on the LinkedIn live stream, you guys can put your questions in here, either into the Zoom chat or the LinkedIn live chat anytime you want. And Toby's going to pay attention, and then we'll tackle those questions too at the end. Toby, any other intro you want to give before we jump into founder-led marketing and what it means and what it is?
I mean, we can go right ahead. I just want to say hello. I'm Toby, creative director at Project 33. Again, this is us experimenting a little bit here with trying to also make it a little like a live podcast, and let's see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah.
That's it. Let's see. If you have any ideas, again, questions, just put them in. We make sure they get answered, I hope. And yeah, founder-led marketing. Finn, tell me about it. What is it? It's a new term?
It's a new term. We came up with it. Well, so I was thinking about it, we do a very specific thing for companies with Project 33. We work with B2B companies, mostly B2B software companies. And generally, we work directly with the founder of that company, founder and CEO. We sometimes work with a different leader at that company, head of revenue, CMO, head of product development. But I would say 80% of our customers, it's the founder who we're interviewing and creating content for. And so there's already this term of founder branding, right? Which is basically personal branding, but for founders. I don't like that term. I never liked that term because branding sounds kind of wishy-washy. It's like, it sounds like a nice to have. It's mostly, I think, what people associate with it is like you're posting like some LinkedIn content around like work-life balance and your life as a founder and like how to raise money and like the challenges of growing the company and, your hobbies and the books that you're reading. And I think that's cool. But when I thought about it, that's not actually what we do. And that's not actually what we believe in. And so I tried to figure out what is our approach. And I came up with this term founder-led marketing. I prepared some slides here, just a couple of them. So I'm first going to just throw out a definition for founder-led marketing. The first definition that I came up with, and it might be open to some iterations. All right, what is founder-led marketing? It is leveraging the founder's expertise, stories, and gravitas to scale your communications, create awareness, build trust, evangelize your product, and create demand for it. Right. So I underlined these three things: expertise, stories, and gravitas, because they're unique to a founder. Like doing these things, scale communications, create awareness, build trust, create demand. All of these things are goals for marketing, right? And a lot of marketing wants to do these things. And we believe that using the vehicle of the founder is the most effective way to do this, especially like the companies that we mostly work with are, one, as I said, B2B. So they're selling high ticket products or services, right? It's not like a t-shirt. It's not like an e-com business, not like a D2C brand. It's not cosmetics. It's $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 per kind of transaction, ACV, deal size. And generally the companies that we work with are, startups or scale-ups. So they're not corporates with like thousands of employees. They usually have anywhere between 10 to 100 employees. Usually they're validated product market fit. So they have something that they're already selling. And now the goal is to scale this. So that's the definition. I'm curious. We're experimenting with this. So as you guys have questions, feel free to throw them in already. Otherwise, Toby, the next thing that I have is the benefits of it, unless you have anything else you want to chat about before that.
I'd be interested in what is the exact difference between like founder-led marketing on this side now and what we called founder branding, personal branding, you know, what we did before.
Yeah. So the way that I think about it is founder branding, as I said, it's this personal branding for a founder. So the goal is you as a founder build your own personal following, right? Whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram, right? You post content through your personal profile as the founder. You talk about your life, you talk about your experience, you talk about, work-life balance and raising money and this and that, and, your idols and the people you learn from, right? Anything and everything, with the goal to like build a following. And then hopefully that following translates into, awareness for your company, relationships with maybe employees or investors or customers. Founder-led marketing, the difference is it's not so much like you, the founder, posting through your own personal profiles, talking about whatever you want to talk about. It's just leveraging your experience to run the marketing for the company. So here the goal is actually not so much to build the personal brand of the founder and to get them to have like 20,000 followers on LinkedIn or 50,000 followers on TikTok. The goal is to grow the company, to take the content that you're creating from the founder, where they talk about the product and the company and the mission and the benefits of their product and how they're different from this competitor versus that competitor, and what the features are and how it works, and what they've done before, and then take that and run it through the company's marketing channels, the company's YouTube channel, the company's LinkedIn account, advertising campaigns on LinkedIn and Facebook. It's basically just the founder communicating these things, but the communication is really more around the goal of growing the company rather than growing the personal brand of that particular founder. And you're just leveraging their expertise to do it.
So yeah, then maybe go ahead to talk us through the benefits you see founder-led marketing has.
So I wrote down 3. I think there's more, but these are the first 3 that come to mind when we think about it. So the first one is, now these are the benefits, especially when you think about like maybe more traditional types of marketing, where you have a marketing team who creates blog posts or ads or graphics or, LinkedIn content that they post to the company page, versus, doing it through the founder-led approach. So the founders is in the center of creating this content. So I think the first one, it's easier to build trust, because no one understands your product, your company, your customers, and your market better than your founder, especially when we're talking B2B. It's not a transactional impulse buy type of thing. If you're selling like a $30,000 service or $100,000 enterprise software product, you can't like have some clickbait Instagram ad that's 15 seconds long and then expect someone to purchase, right? You need to build a lot of trust and credibility with the people that you're selling to. And these are usually senior, decision makers at a company, whether they're heads of HR, heads of marketing, heads of sales, CEOs, CFOs, whoever you're selling to. And so you want someone communicating what you do and how it works and what your company stands for and what your product does and what the benefits are and what the features are and how you're different to this competitor, from someone who is a deep, deep expert in these things. And we believe that there's no one who better does this and understands this than a founder, because they've been there from day one. They've probably built the product. They probably sold the product for the first time. They probably built the customer profiles. They probably have years of experience in that industry that they can leverage when they talk about these things, that someone else, maybe a marketing manager, doesn't necessarily have, who just came into the company, is now learning all of these different things. So that's one. The next one, easier to build awareness. We noticed this with our customers. People want to hear from founders, not from your marketing manager or some comms or PR person. Like, think about, when was the last time that you were excited to hear from a PR company corporate spokesperson? Never, right? We want to hear from founders. You might love or hate Elon Musk, but it's so much cooler to hear from him directly about what he wants to do with Twitter and where he sees the company going and what new features they're planning to roll out and why they want to roll out these features and what the approach behind them is, than from some corporate spokesperson who's going to, go out there and say these same things, right? It's so these things just resonate much more with people. And I'm going to add one point here. There's the term founder-led sales, and that's how we came up with the term. And the founder-led sales is basically the idea that when you're growing a company for the first time, it should be you, the founder, doing the selling. Usually, at least if you're a software startup, the first stage is like building the product. That should be done by the founder. Then once you have the product built, you have some MVP, you need to go out there and sell it in the market. And the idea of founder-led sales is basically you shouldn't hire salespeople and SDRs to sell your product for the very first time. That should be you, the founder, because again, no one understands your product, your company, what you stand for better than some hired salesperson. And two, I saw some stats. I don't know if this is correct, but it's somewhere in that range. When you're sending out cold emails, cold LinkedIn messages, LinkedIn connection requests from a founder, you get a 3 times higher response rate than if you're sending the same message to the same person, but from a sales rep. I mean, think about that yourself, right? If you get a cold message on LinkedIn by some random person you've never met, what's the first thing you do? You go to their profile. And if you see that their job title is sales rep or salesperson, you're much less likely to reply than if you see they're the founder and CEO of this company, right? And the same applies to marketing. And then the last one here is easier to generate demand, because we believe that it's really important for companies to have a face to the company, to have someone carrying the flag for the company, some person, a real person that someone can associate with a company that can then go out there and actively evangelize your product and category, especially if you're early stage, especially if you build a new solution that doesn't really exist in the market. And you're trying to build something that people don't really know. You need someone out there in the world going around telling people why it's important, why it matters, why people should think about it, what the benefits are, how this new approach is different to the previous old approach, right? And again, we believe there's no one better to do this type of job than a founder, because again, like they have the gravitas, they have all the stories, they have all the experience, they can tell all that history about how they came to build this product and why they built it and why they started the company and what their vision is and what the mission is, much better than anyone you can hire. And also, I mean, it's a risk, right? If you bring on like a marketing person and then you give them the responsibility of evangelizing your product, turnover is very short in like these startups, right? Like chances are in a year or 2 or 3 years, they're going to leave the company. Right? Do you really want to give such a core part of your strategy into the hands of someone, whether you like it or not, will probably move to a different company, maybe even a competitor of yours in 2 years?
What do you think? At what stage should a company consider that? Or at what stage is it considerable? Yeah.
I mean, I made a breakdown of our customers and where we got the best results. So again, we work with startups or scale-ups or early stage companies, not like massive corporations. And I believe from kind of where we see we got the best results is when companies move from that stage of startup to scale up, which means you've validated product market fit. So you've built your product and you've actually sold it to a bunch of people who paid you real money. So you validated that this is actually a need in the market. You're solving a real problem. You validated unit economics. So you know that you can profitably sell this thing repeatedly. You've built a process around the sales process. And now the next stage of that, and this is usually when a company raises a Series A or a Series B funding round. If they're funded, if they're bootstrapped, it's a little harder to determine. It's usually when they're maybe at 30 employees. We find like 20 to 30 full-time employees, and they're growing fast. So they're not stagnating. They haven't been at 20, 30 employees for 5 years. They've been growing 50% year over year for the last 2 years. And now there are 20, 30, 40 full-time employees. That's when I think it really makes sense, because then the call to action is, if you have investors, scale it up, right? And so when I think about, and that's how we came to this founder-led marketing, right? The first stage of the company is building the product. This is like pre-seed, seed round, and this should be founder-led. You should have a founder getting their hands dirty and actually being hands-on involved in building the product. Then once that's done, the next stage is founder-led sales. Then it's can we actually sell this thing that we built to a couple of people successfully at profit? Again, this should then be founder-led. It should be the founder selling this thing for the first couple of times before they then hire salespeople and sales reps and AEs and try to scale that process and build the sales process. And so I think founder-led marketing is the stage after that. Founder-led product, done. Founder-led sales, done. Next stage, founder-led marketing. Scaling that up. And the big difference, obviously, between sales and marketing is that marketing is scaled, right? Because as you grow the company, you as the founder can only be in one sales call at a time. So it's very time consuming, but in the beginning, it's important because no one else can sell it than you. But once you validated that people want it, you can hire for it, you can build a process and best practices around it. It's not scalable anymore. Like you can only be in so many sales calls at the same time. The difference with marketing is it's scaled, right? Like if you create content, if you create videos, if you create a podcast, if you create ads, text posts, image posts, graphics based on the founder's expertise, all of that is scalable, right? Because you can create it once and then thousands, tens of thousands of people can all watch that same video, listen to that same podcast, be shown that same ad. So that's where I see it fitting into the life cycle kind of a company. And then eventually I think they'll outgrow it. And, once you scaled past that, it eventually makes sense for the founder to take on again other responsibilities, because now you've really validated your message. You know what you're communicating, how you're communicating it. You have other leaders within the company you've built up who deeply understand your market and your customers and your product.
So now talk us maybe through, like, you figured that out, and what should be your messaging? Like you were talking about creating a podcast, everything. Mm-hmm. What should it talk about then to also create demand, as you said?
It's different for different companies, right? I think when we're talking, I'm going to now focus on software, SaaS, tech startups who generally build something new. So I think one of the focuses, and this is where the demand creation comes in, is evangelizing your product. If you build something that doesn't exist in the market, you need to go out there and actually explain to people what this is, because they're not actively looking for it, right? It's the first time someone built a CRM, no one knew what a CRM was, right? It wasn't in people's consciousness to say, oh yeah, we need a CRM, obviously. So the first people who created the first CRMs, Salesforce, they needed to actually create the category to go out there and explain to people, what is a CRM? What are the benefits? How does it work? How does it differentiate from maybe your current processes, like an Excel spreadsheet that you have to manage your customer list? So I think that explaining, but even if you're a service business, right, go out there and explain why. If you're an SEO agency, right, even though that's an established category, so it's much harder to stand out. But if you do SEO, evangelizing it would basically mean explaining people what SEO is, but then going beyond it, explaining why it matters, why it's important, what the benefits are, how it's different and better than Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or blog. Well, blogging is kind of SEO, or LinkedIn content or YouTube content, and which companies should consider it and not, and at what stages, right? That's all evangelizing your category. So I think that's one point. And then the second main one that I think about is, especially when we're talking B2B, high ticket, long sales cycles, high ACVs and deal sizes, is build trust and credibility. And how do you build trust and credibility? By creating lots of free advice, basically. Right, showcasing that you are an expert, that you are an authority, that you deeply understand the market and the trends that are happening, and your customers and the pain points that they're dealing with, and the roadblocks that are happening in their day-to-day life. And so if I would be creating a CRM right now, which is a very bad idea because it's a very saturated market, there's already a million CRMs out there. But if I would be creating a CRM, right, evangelizing it would mean, why do you need it? What are the benefits? How does it work? Why should you have it? And then building trust is, who will adopt your CRM? Well, it's probably going to be heads of sales, VPs of sales. If you're selling it to smaller companies, it will be the CEO or owner. It might be the head of Rev Ops, these types of people. And so then I would think about, how can I add value to these people? And what they're really interested in is sales advice, right? So I would create lots of advice on how to scale your sales, how to do better sales, how to write cold email sequences, how to improve your cold your email open rates, some hacks on LinkedIn outreach, how to streamline your sales processes, my favorite sales tools, right? So that I establish myself as an authority in the B2B sales space, because naturally then my prospects, these heads of sales, heads of rev ops, they're going to see me as an authority. And then it's only a natural step to be like, yeah, of course, I'm going to buy my CRM from this person who clearly understands me and my pain points and what I'm going through and my goals and my desires. So those are the main things. And then the last kind of category that I think about is more like general comms. What is your company up to? Maybe announce a funding round, maybe announce a new office that you're opening, announce like new product features that you're bringing out, like the general kind of announcements type of stuff, so that people can keep in the loop of like what your company's up to and how you're growing and like new things that you're rolling out, new people that you hired. And then maybe I would also always add some personal stuff, right? If you're the founder, like that's where I see like founder branding to me is like a subset of founder-led marketing. Like it should be part of it, right? Like you want to have something relatable, right? You want to have someone, so like you should sometimes talk about your favorite book and sometimes about like how you manage your work-life balance and, what you learned, starting your first company when you were 22 years old in your dorm room or whatever. That's all nice. That makes you relatable, but it should be one part of it and not the main part.
Cool. Lots of information here. I can see, like, I don't know, Noor is taking a lot of notes, it seems like. Lena as well, maybe. So do you have any questions so far, maybe? I feel like super much information right now. If you don't have any questions, maybe put a thumbs up or something.
Yeah. Best practice example. Who is
best
really
practice?
Yeah, or I don't know if you are allowed to show a good use case or
what stage, because there's lots of different company types, lots of different stages. Do you have a specific like case in mind?
In an early stage, maybe.
Early stage. I'm a big fan right now. This is not a customer of ours. Nathan Latka, who's the founder of Founder Path. They are a player in the B2B SaaS space. They're basically provide like no equity funding for people. And he is very out there being the face of the company, carrying the flag, right? And he's doing exactly these things. He's like evangelizing their solution, which is rather new. I mean, in a sense, it's loans, but it's a very new approach. Most companies think they're either bootstrapped or they're VC funded and they need to give up equity, and they're actually land in between. And so he's creating a lot of awareness for this new solution, that there is a different way. You don't have to do bootstrap or VC. There's a different thing that's Founder Path. They create these amazing monthly like webinars or live streams where, it's him like Nathan Latka, the founder, like presenting and inviting people and sharing knowledge and insights. He has a podcast where he interviews B2B founders, right? But it's him, right? Like they could have done this with a marketing person. They could have had a marketing person like lead the webinar. They could have like a marketing person do the interviews on their podcast, but it's him, right? And so like, I think that's a really powerful example. So I'll just put the link here. Actually, I'm not sure. Is it founderpath.com? Let me actually see.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the assets you usually use. So let's say people see the content, people like the idea, people would like to buy the product. What would be the next step? Is it like using a landing page so people can land there, see the product more, get more information, and then either they buy or get in contact directly?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have someone else joining. I think website, I mean, we're talking like, like the companies that I talk is like B2B high ticket software products, right? So you're not going to build like a landing page that's like, with big call to action buttons on there, right? Because again, like there's no impulse buying here. Like it's just a lot of like educating the buyer, right? So like the website is a natural place. And again, like that's where founder-led marketing comes from, right? Because you're creating all this assets based on your founder, right? Like the way that we do it is that we interview our customers every 2 weeks and we prepare questions for them and we ask them like, how does this work? What are your 3 tips to heads of sales? How are you different from this competitor, right? What is your approach to this problem, right? Like we create this content, and then yes, we post the content on like YouTube and on LinkedIn and create ads, but we also tell customers to leverage this content on their website. I mean, if you go to our website right now, like we practice what we preach. I think what we're doing is also founder-led marketing. I mean, I'm a super small founder, right? We're only 8 people, but I'm doing this webinar, right? Or this LinkedIn Live. It's me talking. Then we're going to take this and put it into a podcast. We're going to create LinkedIn content around this. And then if you go to our website, the first video that people see where we explain basically what we do and what the benefits of our process is, it's me explaining it, right? So it's founder-led. It's not my personal brand because it's not like, it's just a video with me on our website. So I think, especially in B2B, I think there's a lot of room for companies to give a lot of the information up front. So if you're selling a product and you have a founder out there already creating all this collateral and content and videos, like leverage it to put that information on your website, right? So that the buyer can go to your website and then find out what you do and how it works and what your features are and how your pricing works and all these things, like things that people want to know. And then they can press a button to talk to sales or request a demo or, have a discovery call. And then that call doesn't need to be with your founder, right? Because again, you grew out of that founder-led sales stage. So you now have already salespeople doing that, but it's the founder doing the communications that leads someone to request a demo or something like that. I don't know if this answered your question.
Answered the question really well.
I would like to go back to your CRM example, because Vincent on LinkedIn is asking, how do you differentiate in a saturated category like CRM, if not through product features, like a different value-based stance, community? How do you do it?
I think it's really hard. Like number one, it's just really hard. And I think one hard truth about company building is like, marketing can't fix a bad product. Like if you just don't have a better product than what's already out there, like you can go out and create some fancy marketing and do some clickbaity things and make some big claims. But in the end, people are going to churn because you don't have the best product. And so I think the number one goal is always like build a better product or a better service. And then I think differentiate yourself either by niching down. Maybe there's already a million CRMs out there, but maybe you create a CRM specifically for land development companies, or you build a CRM specifically for chiropractors, because chiropractors have some very specific kind of needs and problems. So you can build a very custom solution that is the perfect for a chiropractor, where maybe using HubSpot or Salesforce or Close or Pipedrive, it's just not perfect. And so you did differentiate yourself by, creating the best CRM for chiropractors. Or I think you differentiate not by features, but by positioning. I mean, what we're doing right here is an experiment in that, right? Like my goal is to position us as a company that does founder-led marketing. Because if I say we do content marketing, which is kind of what we do, right? We create content for founders and then we help them. It's like, okay, you're one of a million content marketing agencies. Now what? Now I got to compete on price and say that we're cheaper. So you want to create a category for yourself where you can be the number one in. And then it needs to be real. Like you can't just come up with some fancy word, right? You need to be able to actually articulate how it's different, why founder-led marketing is not just content marketing, how it's different, what are the similarities, how is it different, what are the benefits compared to it, what are the approaches, how is the philosophy and mindset different when you do this versus that? And I think that's how you can differentiate.
It's interesting because you were mentioning Elon Musk, for example, and there are probably some more examples out there. So I could also see that companies thinking about now putting their founder to the founder-led marketing, this could also be a negative effect maybe for the company. If the founder is like a weird person all of a sudden or does weird stuff, like how do you calculate the risk of that?
Yeah, I mean, if your founder is an asshole, then you have a problem anyway. Like it's like, so like that's a different set of problems. I mean, there are some great examples of founder branding gone wrong, right? You have Elizabeth Holmes, who is the founder of Theranos. And I think there's a recent example, Dan Price. I don't know if you've seen it on LinkedIn. He went viral a couple of times. He's the founder and CEO. Not anymore. He stepped down of Gravity Payments, I think. And he was he went viral based on the claim that he reduced his own salary to increase base salary for all of his employees to $70,000 a year. And he talked all about like how important it is to like provide benefits. And now it turns out like behind the scenes, he was quite an asshole. He like harassed people. There's now multiple. He isn't convicted. So like, it's all just claims at this point, but there's stories by like the New York Times and others where, he mistreated employees and all these things. But, like that's the different set of problems, right? That's just like Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos. She was a fraud. And so like, yeah, if you have a fraud running a company, like you have a problem anyway, no matter if they have a big brand or not. So I think you do need to be careful, right? And I think that's the difference between, again, founder branding and founder-led marketing. Founder branding is like you, the founder, talking about all the things that you want to talk about. If you want to comment on Trump and elections and this and that, like you do it, right? Because it gets a lot of clicks, it builds your brand, you get a lot of reach, it's controversial, and it's your founder brand, right? It's your personal brand. You can talk about whatever you want. And that might help or not help your company. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't do it, but it's a different set of things, right, to deal with. Founder-led marketing is more like, how can we run the communications of our company, explaining what we do and how it works and the benefits and how we differentiate and the mission and the culture and all of these things that you need to communicate as the company anyway, but just having your founder explain it, say it in their words, which is very different. You might never have to or should talk about politics or this or that because it has nothing to do with marketing your company.
So how much personal content should the founder put then out if he's doing founder-led marketing in that sense?
I mean, for our process that we build our work for customers, we have 12.5%. That's the percentage that we put to personal stuff, which means 1 in 8. So if you publish 8 times, one of them is personal. That's our framework because we kind of found that works. I think you want some of it in there again, but you can also weave it into the other things, right? What you want to make sure with that content is that you don't have a robot out there, like another corporate spokesperson who's just gonna, say all the right things and never deviate from it and never have any type of character or personality or personal touch to it. No, like you want a real person because that's what people resonate with. So like you want some personality in there, and it can add value, right? If the founder talks about their favorite marketing book or, the 3 lessons they learned by, increasing their sleep to 9 hours per night instead of 6. I don't know, like it can still add value and it, gives a little personal touch, but it shouldn't be like the main pillar. And that's all you talk about, like your sleep schedule and your, workout routine and, your thoughts on work-life balance and all of these things.
There's another question on LinkedIn from Noah, and he's asking, how do I get more leads via content?
Oh, I mean, that's a very general question. Noah, can you maybe specify a little bit more, like what type of company? What are you selling? Because this is such a broad question. Like I can take this in a million different directions and it might never add value to you. So like, give me a little bit more context and then maybe I can give some actual thoughts on it.
Noah is saying, for example, software consulting services.
Okay. Oh, it's Noah. What's up, Noah? I didn't see Noah. I know Noah. Software consulting. I don't like the term lead because what people usually mean with lead is contact information, right? Companies generally consider someone a lead when they collected the email or like the contact information, the phone number of someone who might potentially, eventually, maybe somewhere in the future be able to buy from them. And I think that's a very bad indicator. I think what you really want is like hand raisers, people who raise their hand and say, I would love to talk to you because I'm really interested in what you do and I'm considering buying it. That's different from a lead, right? That's someone who's intent, who says they want to do this. They're willing to spend some money. And then they also fit your customer profile. right? Like leads, I mean, if you just want leads, you could put out a content on LinkedIn, collect all the people who like the post, and then just message them, right? That's what a lead is. But it doesn't mean that it's going to lead to anything. So I think you want hand raisers. And I think the way that you generate hand raisers is, again, through this, I mean, through marketing, essentially, right? Like where you talk about what you do and how it works and what the benefits are and what problem you solve and how you solve it and what the different features are. And so like, if you build something good, then, you know, like, I mean, companies solve a problem, right? Then someone should raise the hand who have that problem and say, actually, this is me. Like I have that exact problem. What you do resonates. I would love to figure out if we can purchase your services or your product.
So he's saying he's getting 1 to 2 hand raises a week, but he still wants to improve on that. How can you give any tips there?
What we did is, like, I made an analysis in December or November where basically I made a list of all the customers we have and all the customers we had previously, like people who actually paid us money, not leads, not opportunities, not sales calls, but only the people who actually ended up paying us money. And then I went back in history and I tracked down like how it happened, like what was the step-by-step thing, how this deal came to be. I went through all the emails, I went through all the LinkedIn messages, I went through like the recorded calls that we had and actually wrote down like what happened, right? And so like then you should see a pattern of like where these people actually come from who paid you money, and then do more of that, right? I mean, if you see in that analysis that the 1 to 2 people came because they said, hey, I saw your content on LinkedIn and I really liked it, and so they messaged you on LinkedIn and then they became a customer, then it's about how can you put out more content? How can you put out better content, right? Like how can you do more and better of what you're already doing? So if you're posting 2 times a week, post 3 times a week. If you're posting 4 times a week, post 5 times a week, right? And even better, and that's what we now do with all customers, ask them, how did you hear about us? And then if they give you something more generic of saying like Finn's LinkedIn content, once I talk with them, I'm asking them like what specific thing was what triggered you to reach out. And usually it's a combination of multiple things, right? So usually they say, I've been following for 3 months now or for 6 months. I think you know, what you talk about makes a lot of sense. It resonated. And now we just hired a new person. We raised a new funding round. We have the budget. So I want to explore whether we can now actually work with you, right? But sometimes it's a very specific piece of content that they saw where they were like, I saw this and it made so much sense. And so I wanted to explore whether we can work with you guys. And so then look, like, what did you talk about in this piece of content? And can you like create similar pieces of content around a similar topic, follow-up topics, right? So like, I think it just comes down to looking at what's already working for you and then doing more and doing it better.
Thanks, Finn, he says. Amazing. Vincent went to reframe his question a little bit here. So do you find social feedback to be a viable main way to gather product feedback in Germany, in German-speaking countries via the founder B2B?
I don't know if Germany is so much different. I think Germans are maybe a little bit more hesitant to like react to things. If you're talking like the more established kind of companies, if you're talking to startup founders, it's all the same. Like, you know, so maybe it's a little harder to like get engagement on like a post or have someone like publicly comment on your LinkedIn post if they're German. But I think generally it's the same thing. I mean, and so yeah, I think it's a great tool. We leverage it too. By the way, Chris Walker is a great example of founder-led marketing. It's not really founder branding what he does. He never really talks about anything that's not B2B marketing, demand gen, revenue R&D. I don't even I think he lives in Austin. Like, I don't know anything about his personal life. Now I blanked on the question again. Let me see. Oh, gather feedback. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're starting out with, right? Like, I think if you have nothing and then you slowly, like Chris Walker is an outlier, right? Like he is crushing it on LinkedIn right now, right? And so if you have the type of audience size that he has, the type of trust and credibility that he's built now, like he can easily put out a post and kind of get some feedback and immediately have enough signals to have something real there to then go ahead and like implement that in their messaging or their ads or their positioning or their product. You know, if you get 3 likes on a LinkedIn post, you know, you can't be sure that this is great feedback. So I think in that case, it might make more sense to like reach out to people one-on-one. I think the content is more like the early indicator to then dig deeper. Like you can't put out a LinkedIn post and then like know like in the nuance how you're going to position your company. But you can get an early indicators like maybe this direction a little bit resonating more or this direction. And then once you get an early indicator, you can then go ahead and do, one-to-one interviews, and really dig into, what people think and how they feel about it to get some real like deep insights. So it can be the indicator to lead you down a road where you can then like dig deeper and take it kind of off social media and into one-on-one like customer research.
And I mean, it's probably the same that we do, right? With content, like every piece of content is basically a little experiment of that messaging kind of.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I think about our content is like every single piece of content that I put out is a tiny messaging experiment, right? It's like me putting out a thought or an idea or an insight or lesson or like a shower thought that I had, and I put it out into the marketplace, and then I see what comes back. And then sometimes I get 2 likes and I'm like, wow, okay. Only I thought this was interesting, but that's valuable too. Right now I know that this was just not interesting to people. And then sometimes like it gets, 100 likes and I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Something resonated here. And then we can take that insight and we can run this piece of content as an ad and amplify it. We can take whatever we're talking about here as like a more general theme and kind of create subtopics on this topic. Maybe we can use it to fuel our positioning or website messaging because something in that messaging resonated. So maybe like I embed it on our website or I use it in our emails or something like that, right?
So how exactly would you then measure the ROI basically of the founder-led marketing?
I think the same way as you would measure the ROI of marketing. I think that the best approach that I've seen is Chris Walker's. If you're in B2B, so you're selling like complex solutions, long sales cycles, the best thing to do is just ask people, how did you hear about us? When you talk with them or when they request a call or a demo on your website. And then over time, what you want to see is those activities showing up, right? Saying, oh, I've been seeing Finn's content on LinkedIn, or, oh, I saw this ad by your founder that was shown to me and it really resonated, or, oh, I found your YouTube channel and like the things that your founder talked about resonated a lot. So that's why I'm here, right? Like that's where you want to see it showing up. And then you know that these activities, these channels, these communications are actually like leading people to raise their hand and say like, I want to explore whether we can pay you guys money to do the thing that you're doing.
I see Noor's like taking notes like crazy. Are there any more questions from you guys?
I would just ask one more question regarding the balance between personal branding and more, let's say brand focused content.
Yeah.
How do you balance it? Can we say like 70-30? 70 focused on the brand itself and 30 on personal life and experience?
Well, for us it always depends on the person, I think. So like, again, what we do for our customers is 12.5%. So 1 in 8, that's personal. And then the rest we split between problem and solution content. So this is, what do you do? How does it work? What are the benefits? What are the features? How do you differentiate to customers? How does pricing work? How does onboarding work? Like everything. Then the second one is subject matter expertise. So this is you adding value, talking about, what I'm doing here, talking about marketing and, sharing insights and lessons about LinkedIn and marketing and personal branding and, YouTube and like these different things. And then the third one that's not personal is company. So this is kind of like the general company communications. Hey, we just raised a new funding round. Hey, we're opening an office in APAC. Hey, like we're hiring a VP of sales, hey, we, here's our mission and here's our culture and these types of things. So, but it comes down to you. I mean, like in the beginning, it might be a little bit more. It also, I think it depends on like how saturated your category is, right? Like if you're creating a CRM and you're not differentiating through the product because you're not building the CRM for psychiatrists or whatever it is, but you're just building another CRM. Like, you can't talk about your product so much. Like, it's just like, and you can't evangelize really because everyone already knows what a CRM is. Everyone knows the benefit. So I think in those things, it's often, or if you're selling SEO services, I think you often differentiate through personality, right? Like, if you're doing SEO services, there's a million other people who do SEO services. If you're roughly similar to most of the other ones and you don't have some revolutionary new process that's completely different to all the other SEO agencies, then oftentimes the people who end up working with you are the people who like you. Like, oh, I vibe with you. You're cool. You're super nice. I love your approach. I feel comfortable with you. So I think if that's your differentiator, then you should do much more personal content.
Maybe to add to this, because like you were saying, 1 out of 8 videos, but we also started to put out text posts and image posts.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like scale or say like how much percentage should be videos? Is there anything like text posts? How do you approach that?
Yeah, no, I think it really depends. I think you should have you always should have a mix of everything, because every person is different. Your buyers are different. Some prefer to watch a video, others prefer to read a text. Some are more visual, others are not. So like, if you only do one thing always, you're going to have a percentage of people who will just consume nothing of what you ever put out. And I think videos are great to build a lot of trust, because videos is, in my opinion, a lot more powerful than like text, because in video, you can communicate whatever message you would have put in text, but people can also see your face, they can hear your voice, they can look into your eyes, they can see your body language, tonality, like all of these things are markers how we determine whether someone is trustworthy. And so I think that's why video is very important, in my opinion, especially in B2B. And it's also easier to differentiate because video is harder to do. And so like every company has a freaking blog. No one reads blogs anymore. But how many companies have a really good, repeatable video process where they have continuously great video content going out? A lot fewer. And so that's one way to differentiate yourself, right? It's to stand out a little bit from the crowd. And so that's why we do focus a lot on video, because I think it's a very powerful medium. But again, like that's why we started mixing in these other things, text and image, because I believe you should have a little bit of everything, not do only one thing always.
Are there any more questions? Maybe on LinkedIn, just put it in the comments. I can read it out.
This is so cool.
Have any questions? Yeah, I love it.
What do you like? I don't know, Lena or Noor, if you guys have feedback, but like, how did you feel? What should we do better next time? Like, like what? I don't know. Any thoughts or ideas?
First of all, I think this should be repeated a lot because it was really insightful. And I personally do some content for some thought leaders, we can say, in my company, the company I work at,
cool,
or some of our clients. So this is actually part of like a bigger service that we do.
Love it.
Yeah, so we utilize the thought leadership part and people talking about what they do, their experiences, and so on, and actually growing their business.
Right.
So it's been.
Are there any particular topics that you feel like we should talk about? Any questions? Any like areas that you feel like should be explored? Anything that you're super interested in and learning about right now?
Maybe I would say how let's say taking a case study. See, like
that's great.
More particular.
Yeah.
Next time it would be actually great to see. And I've been actually following you for a while on the Project 33, and I've seen the website a couple of times. And this is why actually I made sure I joined this meeting, because I take you as a reference in terms of what we do in the company. So this is actually something valuable, and I appreciate you doing this webinar.
Cool. Love it. Thank you. Lena, anything?
Thanks a lot for sharing that much. And I also really love the moderation of Toby.
Nice.
Yeah, that was really nice. So you had a great structure. And next time I also would love to see an example. Maybe you could show a content piece and go through it and give your advice and Yep, that would be awesome. But I really like your structure. So thanks a lot for sharing those insights.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for participating. Yeah, we're planning to do this every 2 weeks. Both of you basically said the same thing, like a case study example of like a founder doing this kind of thing and breaking it down a little bit. So I think let's try to do that with the next one, I guess. All right, cool. We'll wrap up. Thank you guys so much for joining. Also Vincent and Sven and Bill and Noah and anyone else I forgot. Cameron, Puneet on LinkedIn Live. So yeah, this was fun. We're going to upload it now to our podcast. So that's also planned with this, right? Like founder-led marketing, repurpose, put it into like a podcast. And now we're going to create some like snippet videos that are going to go out on LinkedIn, etc. So yeah, thank you guys for joining.